Good evening, Patrick here with 8 Questions with. And I know it's on a Friday. We missed our last two shows, but we're back here to end the week on a high note. Uh, and we will be talking to the crew from Schnozzfest. Schnozzcast. Schnoz Lions. Lion Schnoz. Detroit. These guys are from Detroit, in Metro Detroit, and we will talking to them shortly. Um, and I'm looking forward to this. I hope you guys are too. Um, Now, there's three of them that are part of the podcast. Uh, Rob, Corey, and Todd. Now, I believe one of them was going to be not going to be able to make it tonight because of some last minute work details. But we're going to be talking about him anyway, even though he's not here and he doesn't know this. But we're going to go ahead and get the origin of this podcast. Now, I've already heard some of their podcasts, and it's a very funny show. You can definitely tell these guys have known each other for a while. They're very comfortable with each other. Um, they're looking to keep it on the light side. Uh, the commentary about the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight had me rolling. Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm glad you guys are here for it. I'm glad they came over to Degree to be on the show. Now, you probably heard me mention a couple of times that they're from Detroit. Um, Now, I'm not sure if they're from Detroit proper or I think they're from the metro area, so they're probably just like me in that regard. They don't know until they roll in here or hear this. They don't know that I'm actually right in their own backyard. Uh, so I have a feeling they're on the other side of the city, though. I don't think they're on my side. I think they're on more toward on the other side of Detroit. But we'll find out for sure. I know that they hang out. Uh, they have a pub area that they do their podcasts live. I think it's like once a week or once every other week. They have a chance to do the podcast live at a tavern in Dearborn. Oh, Uncle Ray's Tavern in Dearborn. Yes, Detroit is well known for its various taverns. Uh, Very famous actually. Um, so that's what we'll be talking to. Now I do believe I'm going to be talking to Bob and Todd. I don't think. Oh no! I think Todd is going to be gone. Uh, so they'll be here shortly, and they're looking to get. They also have a YouTube channel, which they run their pod. They do a visual podcast like I do, which means they can watch the you can watch the podcast or you can listen to it as a regular podcast. You don't have to have a YouTube channel in order to enjoy their pod. Okay. Hey Corey, how are you? I was caspering earlier on your lunch. I was working, so I was listening to you talk about your channel. And yeah, man, congratulations, man! Your channel's just blowing it up right now. You guys are definitely rolling over there at Wilkie's Movies and Music. 20 heads. I think when I poked in there, I think I was actually head number 19, 19 or 18. I poked my head in there, and yeah, it was a really good. You guys are really rocking it really hard. Congratulations, man. Well earned. Well earned. I wish I knew your magic. That's what I wish. I wish I knew what the magic was. But I'm glad you got it, and it was very entertaining to listen to you guys chat on Fridays. Hi, Anthony. How are you? Happy holidays to you as well. Um, yeah, I was off this week. I had a couple of days off that we were like, but we're back. We're back. So we're doing this show here and ending the week on a high note. Next week we'll be back. We're back next week, and next week we are doing music. Next week. We have a band coming in next Tuesday. Carry the Nine. They will be here on the 17th. On the 17th, On the 18th, we have singer-songwriter Jenna Clark will be with us at 8 o'clock. And on the 19th, we will be joined by our special guest, Snow Leopard, or Snow, as her and I will be talking with um, social leopards. I had to get Snow to come over here when I saw that. So it looks like social leopards. It sort of reminded me when I was talking to Beth and V, who run the channel, who run the podcast. It reminded me very much of Jamie and Crystal, who also do that as well. They help each other by offering support systems with each other. Sisterly advice, motherly advice, friendly advice. They're not professional doctors or anything, but they're caring, compassionate people who care about their friends and other people, and getting along through this world. And so we'll be talking with them next Thursday about their mission, and I'm looking forward to talking to them very much. I think it's great. I think it's great if you can offer people, a chance to vent out. I have seen a lot of people in my social media circle that is really seem to be stressing out, and I'm actually really concerned for a few of them. Like I'm afraid for them. Um, they're really in a dark spot right now. So we're going to be talking with B and Beth about that and how we can cope moving forward. Some of you might remember Snow. Snow has appeared many, many times on her own channel. She does gaming on her channel, and she also hangs out with Lazy Cheetah out once in a while. Um, I know there's no such thing as lazy cheetahs. Okay, then on Monday the 23rd, we have Jerry White III, who owns and operates the Bronson Creative. He'll be here on the 23rd. We're not doing anything on Christmas Eve or Christmas. We're not doing a show. We'll give you guys a break from us. On the 26th, we decided to give that one a break too because it's Hanukkah. Um, so we'll be back on the 27th with actress Julia Elkahomova. I probably killed that name. And she'll be here on the 27th. And then the very last show of the year happens on Monday, the 30th, as we welcome back our friend Gabrielle Archambault. And she will be joined by Jinx and also by Joss. Joss, I don't want to kill your last name, my friend. So I'm going to wait till you get here to tell me how bad I did mess it up. But they are the cast and crew of a new movie that I watched called Jinx Presents The Devil's Vortex, which is a brand new film series that is just kicking off with their very first film called The Devil Vortex, which is an anthology film. I watched it with the cheetah today. Him and I were watching it in 15-degree weather. It's pretty. It'll be interesting. It's an interesting movie. And what was really cool about it was I didn't know this. I knew that Gabrielle was going to be on it. I knew that. But I was watching the show, and lo and behold, there were a couple of faces that have actually been on the show before. It's a small world. I had no idea they were both doing the movie with Gabrielle. I had no idea. And then I'm sitting there watching the movie and going like, oh, I know that person. Oh, I know this person. And it was really interesting and really cool to watch. And they will be here the last day of the show, December 30th. And Jim is here. All right. Uh, you know what? I have a lot of music downstairs. I have about 1,200 CDs downstairs, and it's really really weird is the fact that I have not listened to any commercial radio since I got here and from California. I mean, I know a few of the names. I mean, if you someone say, "What about that band?" I might know it. Chances are I probably wouldn't. But I mean, like I do know who Taylor Swift is. I do know who Foster the People are. The Knock. I know those. I know those folks. Um, but as far as the bands go, I mean, I haven't really bought anything. But yes, of course, I know who John Christ was and Jerry Montano. But I'm getting into more and more music here. I'm really gonna be doing that, pushing it hard next year. And we're gonna be doing more novelists next year. I think overall, um, while the attendance has been really down, as far as this year goes, I think my guest level has gone up. I think I've had just some amazing guests on the show. I've also been blessed to have traveled a little bit onto other people's channels. Mike Zahara's. I've been on that show. We had Jim from Let's Talk Movies with Jim, Sean, and Kenny. We've had them on the show. We had Corey on the show, and we've had a good show. As far as the guest goes, outstanding. And here's the cool thing about it: the gentleman who we're bringing up right now, their podcast is relatively new, so they're looking for guests too, as I understand. And if they don't mind talking music or movies, I think you guys could tap into them and maybe do a home and away. But for right now, let's bring the mighty crew, the Michigan-based podcast Schnozzcast, to front and center. And here we go. Greetings.
Greetings. How are you?
Good, good. Now, okay. So I know I have all three of you. We talked about that. One's going to be one of the crew is had a date night, from what I understand, right?
He wishes he had a date night. He actually has to work tonight,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and yeah, the timing just didn't quite work out. But my other co-host Todd should be joining. I think he just called me, in fact. So let me real
Well,
quickly.
look at that. See, you're already in the world of podcasting with
Yeah,
both people. So, I mean, that
right.
happens. Now, how long have you been running your pod, as the three of you?
Oh man, I could tell you the answer to that, and because I know it. 2017 was when we first started.
Oh my
So
gosh, we gotta blow you up a little bit here, because yeah, well, we're going to do that because I see what you've done. I take it you've done the same thing that a lot of people here have done as well, and that is what we call a visual podcast. I know, new terms, right? New
yeah,
terms. So a visual podcast is basically what we're doing. We're talking face to face, live like this, but then afterwards you can go ahead and when you want to do a replay, you do not. Oh, thank you, Eric, so much, sir. Thank you. Uh, uh, I know that a visual podcast basically is when we're talking face to face like this, and then but people don't have to watch us in order to hear what we're saying. You can listen to it like a normal podcast, or you can come back and watch the replay. Either way, it works. I know some podcasts, the way they lay out their topics, they have to be seen, like the ones that have the one like all the legal ones. It seems like every podcast has to do with legal. There has to be like a visual podcast. It doesn't translate if you can't see what they're talking about. Um,
well, we started as an audio podcast, and then we very quickly added the video because Corey, one of my co-hosts, is a big fan of video and all things cameras, lights. He gets off on that stuff, so he handles all that stuff. But we always put the emphasis on the audio quality because we said, well, we're first and foremost an audio show. So we wanted to, slowly over time, we invested in a mixer, we invested in better microphones, cables, setup, software, because we loved it and we looked forward to it every weekend. So we sort of slowly got better. But you're right, video is a huge part of it.
yeah,
Um, I like to think that we're just as good whether you go audio or video, but there are times for each. If I'm out mowing the lawn or if I'm taking a 2-hour drive, I'm not going to watch the video. So you better have your audio stuff, tight.
Well, that's the cool thing about the cool thing about something like a YouTube, right? Hey Michael and Chadwick, how are you? How are you? A couple of filmmakers walking in through our door. Michael Menard is a filmmaker from Iowa, and Chadwick is from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome in, welcome in. There's another podcaster on top of me there, my good buddy Eric. Hey, Internet, it's Eric and Jim. And there's a lot of people who do pods and do channels here on YouTube. Yeah, I agree. The thing is, I found people too. It's like they'll sit there and say, "I'm listening to you while I'm working." It's sort of like a radio program, like when you would be working and here comes the other one walking through the door. I'll get him up here so he can join the party. Right.
Hello.
Hello. Wait a minute. No Michigan jersey today.
You got the Detroit jersey on today.
I thought about you guys a little bit. I did a little detail.
Yeah,
nice.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Right. Now, I was just saying how yeah, but with YouTube is also that way too. I mean, I use YouTube for white noise at night. I'll put on a playlist and I'll just go to bed listening to it. So you're right. It does have both sides definitely have its pluses. I mean, there's some people who are dedicated to audio, some are dedicated to just visual. I guess because I don't do the audio one, I guess I just do visual. But I definitely have listened to my fair share of audio podcasts. I was just surprised that you guys have been around so long, because it seemed like you guys had just started. I mean, as far as with the amount of following you have, right?
Well, so the short and sweet answer is it was myself and a friend from college who decided that it would be a good thing to try. We did one episode in 2017. And we did it over the phone. It didn't sound great. We had fun, but didn't know where else to take it from there. And so it sat there dormant. We didn't do anything for a year. And then I was talking to Corey and another friend of ours, Nick, who started the show with us. And I said, I think I really want to do this. I think it would be a lot of fun. And I think people would be interested in what we have to talk about. And so they slowly came around. We did a couple in my kitchen. We were all huddled around one microphone. It sounded awful. And we talked for 3 hours. It was way too long. And because we're a drinking podcast, we all got drunk. And so the last hour is almost unlistenable. So we slowly learned from that point on to, cut the time back, what the sweet spot is as far as having a drink or a shot during the show so that you're still, coherent and functioning. And, Todd joined, I want to say, what was it, Todd, like episode 60, something like that?
Yeah, that was probably the pandemic episode.
It might have been. And we've been doing weekly episodes every week since then. And the one we just did on last Saturday was 307.
307.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew you guys had been around for a while. I mean, I thought I was poking around. I just didn't know, but then I came back and I saw how you were doing the YouTube, and you're just now getting started, and you're starting to see the same thing that every new creator here on this platform goes through, and that is it is a little bit tough. It is a little bit tough at first to get your wheels grinding. I mean, I've been doing it for 4 years, and believe me, I feel like I'm stuck in second gear most of the time. And it's like, I just don't, it's just, it happens. Some people connect, some people don't with, the topics or what have you. But you just get out there and keep grinding. Right. And we've done over 500 of these so far, 8 questions, and had a blast with every one of them.
I don't know how you do it with the schedule that you have. The number of episodes you're doing in a month is, we couldn't keep up that pace. I don't think.
Oh gosh, let me tell you, I'm taking February off.
That's February a great idea.
We're gonna jam pack January as best we can, and then we're going to take February off, and then come back for Women in Film Month in March.
Okay.
It used to be it used to be like Women in Horror Month, but that was absolutely the hardest freaking month to book all of the year. That's like pulling teeth with no Novocaine. Oh man, I can't even tell you how that goes. Now, let me ask you: if you get 300 episodes underneath your belt, and I see that you guys are very active on Threads now. Threads is going to be a godsend for us all.
I love that's how we met you, and I liked what you were doing and reached out to you, and we'd love to have you on our show as well.
I love it.
Whenever you can fit it in between all the other shows you're doing. But I love Threads. That's the one place I go more than Instagram, which is saying something.
Right. I went over there for the first time, and I threw out a open cattle call, and was totally blown away by I could have booked my month if I could have booked my whole month in 5 minutes. That's how fast the response I got. I could damn I could book 18 shows here, not a problem. I wouldn't even have to break a swing. But now that I know that, now I'm going to be a little bit more careful how I phrase that. Now, how long? And now, did you always have guests on your show, or was this always more of a comedy, topical type of, current events type of pod for you?
We started having guests early, but they were just friends of ours. They were people that you try to get the word out to family and friends, first coworkers, to see if you're right about the fact that what you're doing is good and it's funny. And so we would have, I think by the time we did 100 episodes, I did a count of the 35 or 40 friends that we had on Friends and Family, of how many times each of them had guested. But we didn't really start doing actual guests until probably 2 years ago. We had a connection to Detroit Paranormal Expeditions. So we had those folks on, and we had a really good time. And then we had a couple more paranormal folks on. And then we got lucky and had Jason Klein from TikTok, who has a really big presence on TikTok. And he sat down with us, which we couldn't believe that someone said yes to our little rinky-dink show. And we had a great time. And from there, we really started to, I want to say it was probably earlier this year, Todd, focusing on
just asking people.
Yeah. We love having guests. And I think that we do our homework. We thoroughly prepare, and we give the episode over completely to the guests. Like if they want to do segments that we normally do, like movie reviews or talk sports, we'll do that. But it's whatever they want to do. And our job is to make them look good and make them laugh and have fun and want to come back and do it again. So we've had a few recently in the past few months that went really, really well. And just like you, Patrick, I've got, probably a dozen and a half interviews in the works for Q1 of next year, and hopefully they'll all happen.
Nice. Yeah, I was blown away with how quick a response I got with the Threads, because I've gone into other groups, and I'm like, hey, he wants to talk, and all I got is crickets. And so I was like, wow, okay. And have you been surprised to see how many people that you asked to come onto the show, and then you say, come on up, and then you don't get nothing. And it's just like, wow, it's like free publicity. It's especially for a creative. I mean, the average person, like maybe a paranormal or something like that, I can understand that. Maybe they're not, maybe that's not their style. But for I deal with a lot of creatives, and it's just like, come on up here, or small businesses. That's the one that blows me away, probably more than anything else. That and animal rescue. I'll say, come on up and talk about your rescue or talk about your business. Holy cow! They thought that I asked them for the safe or the keys to the business. Who are you? What do you want? It's like, want to talk about your rescue? Help you get some notice?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's difficult at times, isn't it, Ben?
For us, the problem was, at first it was let's just go after people that are just like us. They're small and they need exposure, because that's what we wanted. We wanted practice interviewing people. So that's what we did. But after a little while, I think it was with Dave Hill. Dave Hill's a comedian. He's a musician. He opened up for Tenacious D on tour. He wrote the theme song for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. And I was following him on Instagram. And at some point, he posted something that I'm sure you've seen, Patrick. Some people will say, hey, anybody out there's got a podcast, let me know. Love to get it. And so I'm like, you know what? Let's just give it a shot. He's probably going to say no, but he came back. He's like, yeah, how about next month? And I'm like, what? and he came on the show and we had a great time. And from that point on, I think we started going like, let's just shoot for the moon. Let's just ask anybody that we legitimately think we want to talk to. And if we only get 10% of those people, then we're doing really well.
Yeah, no doubt. That's how just generally how I've gotten it. I'll see somebody out there and I reached out there and I'll ask them to come onto the show, come out here and talk. And most of the people in our chat are people I've already talked to. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, though I tell people, they say, well, you get all these people, and I'll tell you, I tell people all the time, it's like I'll ask out of the 100 people I'll ask, about 98% of the time my ass is on the ground because I get shot out of the saddle. It happens. I mean, sometimes if you don't, it all depends, who how you know them. That helps too. It does seem like every celebrity and his grandmother has started to do a podcast, and you hear about them. But the thing about it is too, you just sit there, just relax, and just do your thing, because most of them are already, they'll be dead within a year. They can't, which is true. A lot of those podcasts, they will be over within a year. They might do, they always start off really strong. And then you just outweigh them. And then because I don't know very many people who've done 307 episodes. I don't know hardly anybody does that.
Yeah. So some of them are actually good. So
yeah.
There's 4 of them.
Yeah, there's 4. Yeah, maybe 5. This one will be number 5.
Now, one thing we talked about too is that you are in the Metro Detroit area. Which city are you guys each from?
I'm from Dearborn, just outside of Detroit, and Corey grew up in Dearborn, but now he's in Roseville, more on the east side of Detroit. And Todd.
Well, and I grew up, and I say in Saginaw, Michigan, so up a little bit further north. But again, I went to boarding school. And I live out in the Seattle area now. I live in North Bend, Washington, about 30 miles outside of Seattle.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're a way away.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, I'm actually in Canton.
Ah, nice.
Oh, okay.
My mom's favorite city.
Yeah, I've lived here for over 20 years, and when I saw you guys were from the metro area, I said, oh, for sure, I know exactly what to get these guys talking about.
You're right.
With the Lions talking, the Lions go playing so well, and I was watching you guys talk about sports and going like, oh yeah. I'm sure these guys, every time they plug in, it's a lot of fun the last couple of years to be able to talk sports.
Well, so the funny thing about that is we up until maybe August of this past year, there were 4 of us on there. One of our good friends, Nick, was on the show, and we were all co-hosting together. But Nick was not a sports guy and didn't like talking about sports. If we wanted to talk about sports, he would just shut down. It was so boring to him. So the compromise was that Todd's a huge sports fan, huge sports nut, and we were going to give Todd 90 seconds every episode to talk about sports. And we had a timer. We had an hourglass, and the conceit was that Todd would never be able to get all his sports in 90 seconds, and we'd always have to buzz him out. And nothing made Nick happier than telling Todd that he was out of time.
Oh my God.
And so Nick took a hiatus from the show, and ever since then we've been like, oh my God, we could talk about sports for as long as we want. So Todd's giving it heaven.
but you really don't really talk about an overwhelming amount. When I heard when I heard you guys mention about, well, we don't talk a whole bunch of sports. We're like, well, you guys do all right.
Yeah.
I love the coverage of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. I'm with you, Todd. I'm with you. That fight was fixed.
Exactly.
Holy shit, was that fight fixed? There was no doubt in my mind that thing was fixed. It was just like, wow. I was trying to figure out, like, why would Mike throw the fight? I mean, I really don't know why he would. I mean, it's like
money. He sold his soul.
He was already gonna make that money.
But it was for doing nothing, for just showing up looking okay for a 50-year-old.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking to myself, I think maybe do you think part of it had to do with the fact that if he would have knocked him out, then everybody would have been like grabbing a hold of him, trying to set up a fight with him? Like he would have to do it again.
Tyson had nothing to lose. If Tyson went out there, you just go, well, he's an old man. But if he did knock him out, oh my God, he's the greatest fighter that ever lived.
Tyson had nothing to lose. I don't see that.
I think he had everything to lose. And the only thing I really saved his ass, really honestly, I think the only thing that really saved his ass was the fact that the broadcast itself was worse than the fight.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
The only thing that's been saving him and from instant crucifixion is that. Because that if everyone would have been able to watch that with a clean screen, they would have been raising hell about that. I saw clips of the fight. Even a non-boxing fan could tell when the fix was in. I was just disappointed. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm glad he got paid, but not at that expense.
And I thought it was a bummer. Now I think, like I said on the show, I think I could beat Mike Tyson. I'd like to schedule the fight if we can line that up. Now that we're on the air again, line it up. I'll fight him.
If you were making that kind of money, I think he lost a round. But do I think that you would beat him 8 rounds? No.
I don't think. I'd like to see now, based on the fact that he's willing to take a dive. I think.
Oh, pay him off. Tell me, slip him you'll slip him a Schnozzcast T-shirt if he does the job in the second round.
Yeah.
No, we'll let you go 3. I mean, Clubber Lang went 3 with Rocky 3, so you can go 3 rounds. So
exactly.
That is disappointing. But of course, the big thing is for Detroit, now is the Lions, and of course the revival of downtown Detroit. It's been talked about quite a bit. And you guys also do your pod also from from a tavern. Now, how often do you get to broadcast live? And have you gone to any other places other than Uncle Ray's Tavern to broadcast? Now you seem to be getting a little bit more established.
So far, just Uncle Ray's, because we've known the owner for years, and we'd always kind of put a bug in his ear about, we'd love to. First, we said we'd love to do our podcast in the bar, just a regular podcast, no events, like a show. And he's like, nah, I don't know if we're ready for that, fellas. But then when we said we wanted to, live stream during the show, he gave us a shot, and we turned it into a big event. We had a raffle. We gave out wristbands. We invited anybody to come up and grab a mic and sit on the show with us. So now he's like, when are you guys coming back? And we love going there. But this Sunday for the Bills game, we're going out to the Elks out by Corey's place. They're really looking forward to doing it. He's done a bunch of marketing for us there, and we'll be at a different place for a change this coming Sunday. It's
funny. It's like it's the only radio station I listen to ever since I got here, and that's 97.1.
The Ticket, okay.
Yeah, I listen to the Ticket. Been a fan of most everybody. But man, you guys ever listen to the radio station?
Yeah, that station, yeah.
Now, it's interesting, being, before you're listening to a radio station. I'm sure these folks in the chat could also, I'd like to know your take on that too. To the chat, is that you start listening to radio stations as a listener, and then you start listening to them like a podcaster. Like, what would you say about this event or what have you? And for me, it's like I started listening to, I started doing this podcasting, and then I came over and started listening to the ticket. And before I would listen to it like, like I said, like a fan, like a casual fan. But man, now trying to listen to them, it's like some of those, you just wonder about how the hell did you get your job, and better yet, how the hell do you keep it? I mean, there's a couple of really good guys on there. Pat Caputo.
Yep.
I love
his
Pat
voice.
Caputo.
His voice bugs me. I remember him from The Fan, and
I was just saying the same thing about you, Todd. I was listening today.
I know.
Can't listen. I can listen to that Schnozzcast, but that Todd guy, his voice bugs me.
Me and Pat.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't listen to them nearly enough as much as I used to, because Todd and I get together every weekend, and I consider Todd to be pretty knowledgeable about sports. Like, if I want to hear what he thinks about, the Michigan game, or the World Series game coming up, Todd's going to tell me. So I give him my business.
I'm going to tell you something.
Okay, looks like real quick, I'll just let you guys know that one of the young men who's a filmmaker who's made I think is now working on his fourth feature. He said that he would love to come onto your show and talk movies with you. And I'll definitely put I put your information down below. What is the best way to get a hold of you guys as far as booking or see about being a guest on your show?
Easiest way is the same way you and I did it. Just DM us on Instagram.
Okay.
Easiest way. And we would love to do it. We're not a movie podcast exclusively,
but I'm a good movie reviewer.
He's a good reviewer, and I love movies.
So do I.
I it's funny. It's funny. It's like I love movies too. I review because I mean we're all considered we're supposed to be all considered a horror community. I've left that a long time ago.
I enjoy watching your posts on Instagram.
It wasn't necessarily my fault, by the way. I was told so many times, like, I'm a horror podcast. I'm a horror film reviewer. No, you're not. You don't do nearly enough horror movies. You're not a horror guy. I'm not. No. Go find. You have to do something else.
Do you think that the horror community is very strict about wanting you to only be a horror fan and no other types of films?
Well, here's the problem that most of the people have with me, as far as that goes, is a lot of people that come up there and say, well, you're not really a big horror fan, and I just tell them, says, you wouldn't know what the hell I watch because you never watched what I watch. I watch so much different stuff and underground horror. People, most of the time when I say, have you seen this movie? You always hear this. You'll hear this a lot. I haven't seen it yet. But at the same time, which makes me laugh is like a lot of the same people that are talking in horror. And I'm not saying in any disrespectful way, but a lot of people that come in there and they talk about horror movies, they talk about the same 20. It's like there's only 20 horror films in their lives. It's like
right.
You get past Friday the 13th and Halloween and
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Once you get past those, and then they're out there in the desert looking for water. And it's like, you're just sitting around just like, oh, I saw, what's this? All these independent horror films, like I watched one today. No one's ever heard of it. Probably no one ever will. My job is to hopefully get them some people to watch it because it's really good. But am I considered a horror channel? I'll grant them that. I probably am no longer like I used to be. I cover a lot of horror, but I like covering a lot of other movies too. I just can't do one. I can't do just one genre. It'd be just like you doing if you're doing a beer, like beer, every week, that's all you're talking about is just beer. That was the topic of your podcast. It's just beer. I think that might catch on for a little while, but I think by end of the end of like 30 shows or 24 shows,
Yeah, not 300 worth.
yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely would be burnt out.
You're definitely shoehorning yourself into a very specific niche that there's not really a way out of.
Well, I really like your niche, even though I have to admit, I feel like if you guys ever dipped your toe into the political side of things, I think that would be pretty amazing hearing you guys cut loose.
Yeah, we right from the beginning decided anything was fair game, but no politics, no religion, because we had, different political viewpoints in the show, and things had gotten, by the time we started, earnestly, like maybe a year or two before the pandemic, things were very polarized, and they're even more so now. So we didn't want to offend anybody. We also didn't want to put us in a position where one of the hosts was mad at one of the other hosts because they said something that they didn't agree with. So we just decided.
Do you think it's political though? Bob,
Say it
do
again?
you think it's political? I mean, like define what political means to you. What does the word political mean to you in today's world?
Talking about the parties, we've discussed political issues like healthcare. We've talked about that. We've talked about the prison system.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about how the left is better than the right because of this or vice versa, that's where we're not interested in that.
Isn't it funny too that once you do start talking a little bit like that, you'll actually get more. You'll get more of an audience.
Well, we wouldn't know. We've never tried it. So
it's weird. It's weird. Like I had a Facebook group, and on it, I said, I just want positive news all the time, and then you just like sit there and you look down, and no one's talking. And I told my buddies this, I don't do the politics thing, but watch what happens when I do. I say, okay, for this weekend only, go ahead and cut loose.
Yeah.
And then watch what happens. It's like throwing blood and it's like going down to the Amazon to fish for piranha.
I think we've been programmed to do that. I think ultimately the news media across the board, it's looking for that shock value, right? You want the fight is what you want to see. You don't want nobody puts the camera on the street with people walking up and down the street getting along. It's when you see the altercations that we kind of like train wrecks, and so we've been kind of pre-programmed to that. I think. I've pushed the limit on the show with political views quite a bit because again I like living on both sides of any perspective, and we pushed the envelope a little bit. I think and I would say ultimately before sports opened up, it was tougher with four hosts. So love Nick to death. He is a great co-host, but with four opinions, and even if you two of us agree or three of us agree. It makes it can be really tough for the show, I think. But yeah, I think talking about politics, I'm neither here nor there. I think I'm very centrist in my beliefs, but I think as we go forward, we might tease some things in there. But I love the fact that we don't kind of stick a flag in the ground and go political on people as far as party goes. I think that we do touch on social issues that impact us all.
I've only had a couple of shows where as far as that goes, I had chance to do three. One was a French candidate for the president. He was in California, and he wanted he's asking people to interview him because he was going to run, and so I went and I looked, and yeah, he was legit. He had legitimately signed up to put his name on the ballot. And I was all right with that. Okay, so and so, and then I started talking to him a little bit about. Then I started talking to him. Okay, well, could you have somebody one of your volunteers, your social media manager or whatever, get a hold of me? He goes, what's a I said, what's a social media manager? And I said, well, the person that runs your social media page. He goes, I don't have that. Okay. And and then I said, okay, do you have any speaking? Do you have any clips of you on a college doing a speech? Don't have one of those either. He literally truly was a one man person. It was a one man machine. But he was. He was legit as far as, he was serious, but he just had absolutely no idea what he was doing. He had nobody volunteering to help him, and it's like, I really would have loved to talk to him. In fact, he's probably the only person I've ever come back to and said no, because I don't think we would have much of a show, because he really wasn't doing anything. It would have been like, it would have been like in 20 minutes, and that would have been it. See, Todd is. He popped in. Looking forward to seeing you on the Schnozzcast. Yes, Chadwick is he's a very professional, polished filmmaker. I think you will really enjoy that. And he's, like I said, he's working on his brand new film, so he is on his way up. The other one is I ran across someone who have you ever had a show where you've had a guest on? Maybe you didn't know him all that well, but you said, hey, he's really sounds pretty interesting. I'd like to see what he has to say. And then they ambush you. Ever been ambushed on your podcast, or do you not worry about that because now you're doing live shows. You're doing your pod live now. So is that a concern for you to if you're things are going well, and then out of the blue, your guest comes up there and drops a political bombshell and wants to talk about it? Has that ever happened to you so far?
Not yet, but if it did, I'd like to think that the odds are slim because we do our homework, and we go back and if it's another podcaster, we'll go back and watch their podcasts. We'll read their books if they're a writer. If they're a filmmaker, we'll watch their movies, and then we'll try to have them on for like a pre-podcast meeting beforehand, just to introduce ourselves and get to know each other. So I think we'd be able to sniff it out pretty quickly if it happened. But so far,
we're ready.
Yeah, we are ready.
Todd's ready. Oh, we're ready. We're ready.
Yeah.
I've only actually been ambushed one time. I've only been ambushed, but I was ready for it. Like you said, I was ready for it. I was like, yeah, this guy's gonna come up with one agenda. He's gonna hit it with another one. But that's the only time it's ever happened. So,
Right.
So there we go. Hey, Casey, how are you? Interweb Kaiju, thank you for coming in. So let's talk a little, because I've listened to like 4 or 5 of your shows now.
Wow, thank
you. The one thing I really have to be impressed with is how good-natured all you guys are. I have not run across any really heaviness, onto the show. It always seems to be really light and really airy, and that just tells you how well you guys have known each other for quite a long time. You feel absolutely comfortable saying anything to anybody.
Yeah.
What's been your now who started it first? Now, was it all 4 of you started at the same time, or was it just who was the first person? I mean, you said your brother, right?
It was me and a friend from college. So Todd and I both went to the same college, and one of our mutual friends, him and I started the show. And like I said, it was only 1 episode we did, and then it sat there for a year. By the time we did the 2nd episode, that gentleman wasn't available anymore. So I started doing it with Nick and with Corey, and about 55, 60 episodes in, Todd had already been joining as a guest, as like a special guest every now and again, and we just decided it worked really well, and he was interested. So we're like, why don't you just be a 4th?
Can I give my take on that, Bob?
Can I mute him? Is that possible?
Yeah, here we go.
So I thought the show was pretty good, and they had invited me on to guest host a couple of times, and I had a blast. But they did an episode about music, which Bob and I and the other original Dr. Phil, also big music people, and so they did an episode on music, and I was appalled that they hadn't invited me to be a guest host on a show where they talked about music when they had it so obviously wrong. And so after that, they invited me on for another guest appearance, and we were kind of kind of keeping track of who had gotten the most guest appearances on the show. And finally, I think the big thing was we actually were seeing a lot of people commenting during the podcast, but nobody was really managing that, and said, "Hey, so I volunteered originally to do the chat channel during the podcast." And as you can tell, I couldn't be, my voice couldn't be constrained. And so I'm like, I got to get on the show. So around episode 60, they finally let down the barrier and let me join the show full time.
Yeah, he thought we were way too white of a podcast, and he's like, I'm the one to fix this. Todd Dillon.
The whitest kid you know here in Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys cover. That's one good thing too. I mean, as far as current events or topical events, you guys cover it all. Now, have you gotten any other than the two taverns that you guys have done your broadcast out of? Has anybody ever tried to come up there and offer you money for you to review their stuff and give them a good review? Have you run across that yet?
Please. I'm begging you, offer us anything. We'll review literally anything. I don't care if it gives you hives, gas. We'll review it, and you can pay us.
But what if they're expecting a really good review and you watch the movie and the movie?
They better put me on vacation.
Well, it depends on how much we're talking.
No, I can't be bought.
Yeah, Todd could be bought so easily. So easily.
Now, one thing, have you guys been recognized? Have you guys been recognized off the pod yet? Have people recognized your voice or your faces so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a little weird. It's a little weird to do that. I told this story maybe a month ago. I was out at if you may know Dearborn Patrick well enough to know Miller's Bar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was at Miller's ordering food to go, and so I sat down and I said, "I'll just take a beer. Here's my to-go order." And I was sitting there at the bar, and this guy was sitting maybe like 5 seats away from me, eating his food, and he looked over at me and he's like, "Hey, I think I know you. Are you? Do you do that Schnozzcast?" And I'm like, "What?" So he came over. He's like, "Yeah. He worked at Ford, and he had been." He's like, "Yeah. Me and a couple buddies have listened to the show before. I thought I recognized your voice." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest day in the history of days."
Oh my God, they still recognize me. And then it was like, oh my God, thank God I don't have a voice like Jeff Rieger.
Yeah, it's weird at first, but it's kind of cool. I mean, will we ever get to the point where we can't walk down the street? Highly doubtful. So I'll take this very minor fame. It's a very small way of getting some acknowledgement that some people are actually enjoying what we're doing.
I think the bigger guests that you get, when you start landing some in general, I'm not talking about you specifically, but in general, I think once your pod starts landing a little bit bigger guests, I do think you start getting a little bit of notoriety. You start gathering like, okay, that's one of the first things I do when I like you mentioned how you pre-show it, like get talk to the guests, get to know them. I actually do the opposite. As you already know, when I book you, I sort of Casper you. I sort of ghost you out a little bit. And the reason why is because I want it to be completely organic. I don't want it. I really, the only time I'll ever talk to anybody before a show is just to test their connection. Otherwise, I want this to be as organic as it can be. I never have any preset questions. This is not scripted. Sometimes I'll tell a chat, no, we're not. This is not scripted. We're just flying by the seat of our pants. Just good conversation with good friends.
That's what it sounds like to me. And you do a great job. You're very personable, and Absolutely. You make people feel at ease. And as you know, the trick is if you're flying by the seat of your pants, you got to make sure to keep the the pauses and the silence to a minimum, right? As long as you could do that, it's all good.
Right. Yeah, that is true. I mean, that is true sometimes, especially the dead air time. You sometimes there's been times before, there's been times where and it's really interesting too is I'm sure you guys probably watch and review your pod, right? After the episode runs, you go back and listen to it
Yep.
and you see how well it sounded, what worked, what didn't work. Sometimes I'll do that as well. I'll go back and I'll listen to my show and whatnot, and that's what I'm looking for too. I'm looking for if dead silence.
Yes.
If I'm sitting here and I haven't said anything in 30 seconds, I know I'm in trouble. There's been shows where I've listened to and I absolutely have hated it. Like I said, and it's really hard to get good quality feedback. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah.
Have you noticed
Yeah.
that? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that? Seriously, it's like, how
Yeah.
do you do? And you can't get anybody to sit there and tell you how you did.
We beg for it every week.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all you could do is keep begging.
Yeah.
And we get it from time to time from this person or that person. And then you start to go, oh, this person's reliable for a review when I need one.
Yeah,
And
I'm not. It's funny. It's funny, Bob. It's in the fact that it's like it's important. It's to help us out. To bring a better show. To you is to actually get feedback.
yeah,
And to sit there and it's a struggle to get it because it's like, well, that's my friend. What am I going to say to my friend? Say the truth.
Absolutely.
Like I'll be honest with you. When I listened to your pod, man, I didn't have anything. But all the thing I had was, man, I wish I was as good as these guys.
oh, come on.
No,
We're
man,
friends. We're friends.
Exactly.
You guys such a smooth rapport with each other. It's so awesome. It's like it's three guys having a great time, and you've known each other for years. You could definitely just see that in the dialogue. You guys seem to know what each other's going to say, and it's funny as hell, and it's fresh, absolutely fresh.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, I really enjoyed listening to your pod. I think it's
Thank you.
Thank
yeah, that's it's. To me, it seemed like to me when I listened to it, the first thing I got was like, is this going to be a jock cast?
Well,
Like
exactly.
three guys talking about nothing but baseball, football, and basketball. Like like the tickets,
Because we're big and burly guys. Is that what you're strong?
Well, no. You know what? There's not really any big and burly. I think they got one or two ex-Lion players on the ticket, but otherwise, all their guys are all like us. They're all middle aged and sort of fluffy. There's but that's all right though.
Yeah.
Except for radio, talk radio, I think they have to do things differently because talk radio, it's not anything different what we're doing. The only thing that's different is we're not taking phone calls.
Right.
Well, here's the difference there though. Talk radio has a crew. They have a staff that helps them to do their
Research.
their research, the editing, the production of the show. If you could afford that, great. But otherwise, we're all doing it ourselves.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of time to put a show together, doesn't it? Walk us through a week worth. Let's say you guys come out on the weekend, right? Saturdays is your main show or Sunday?
Generally Saturday nights. Yep.
Okay, so let's just say after Saturday night's over with, your show goes out. Now it's Sunday morning. Walk us through what an episode of Schnozzcast is going to go through. Do you guys do production meetings? Do you do review of the past show? Critique it? Break it down? How do you make an episode of your pod come together?
This is a great question that no one's ever asked us before. So
I love it.
Prior to the show on Saturday, we're meeting on Wednesdays to talk about planning for the Saturday show, and we're talking about guests that we're trying to book. We're talking about changes we want to make. Todd's got a new idea for this segment. How would that work? Let's kind of workshop it. And so then we go into the show. We're all ready to go. After the show's done, so we'll stream the show live on YouTube. But once the show's over, we take that episode down. It was so that it's a thing. We streamed it live. If you were around and you got notification because you follow us, then you got to see it. If you didn't, then you're going to have to wait until the next week when we release it officially. I'll call Todd. We'll put him on speaker and we'll all talk about how we thought it went. And then from Sunday through until Wednesday, I'm editing the audio. Corey's working on the video. Corey and I will meet up during the week to do artwork. So there's a different piece of artwork for every episode we've ever done. And so we put a lot of work into that too, because not a lot of podcasts do that. And so by the time we get to the following Wednesday again, everything should be done and ready to be released on Friday. We'll release the audio and the video to YouTube and all the streaming services on Friday morning.
I think the only thing you left out of there is we also meet ahead of the show to finalize any segments, new changes, or whatever is going to enter into prior to the show on that Saturday before we go. So we're going to have a pre-production meeting, and then during the week we probably trade 20 or 30 texts around every different aspect, new ideas, whether we like the artwork, the title from the last week,
Right.
The artwork itself. Geez, I think the one thing that's been different, the fact that we do the multiple pre-production meetings, and the fact for me, Monday and Tuesday, I'm usually writing, because I think for Wednesday, it's like, hey, do you have sports, or do you have grievances, or do you have something for these segments? And so ultimately I've been doing writing ahead of the show, which has helped me a ton. But yeah, we are in communication multiple times, probably every day leading up to the show. So I think there's a lot more that goes into it than
and it's because we love doing it. We love hanging out. We look forward to it every week. And we knew that, you do 100 episodes, then you get to 200, and your follower count is only going like at a very slight incline. Then you go, okay, we could just continue to do this and not change anything because we enjoy hanging out. Or if we want to go to the next step, we have to put a little bit more work in. And so that's what we've been doing.
Well, there's so you asked earlier about about the horror community here where I'm at, and yeah, and we're always looking for reviews, and where you do a show like this, and it you see just very few people come in. And the thing is, so it's like there's two ways you can come at it. You can come at it like, I can go ahead and do what everybody else is doing, right? Like,
Mhm.
like I saw somebody who I thought was extremely creative. I enjoyed watching his channel tremendously. But he wants to be much more well known, and so he has basically forgotten that. He's like, I can't, for me to advance, become a tuber. I can't do that. I got to just go with like the 5 or 6 same old topics, and that's what they do. They pound the same 5 or 6 topics over and over and over, and it's like, and the channel has really grown. That's one way to look at it. You can look at it and go like, well, what do I want to do in order to become, what are you here for? Are you
Right.
here to hear yourself talk by yourself with 4 or 5 people, or do you want to talk with, are you looking for, you're looking for more common ground, looking for more, what people want to hear publicly, and talk about that over and over and over, and then knowing halfway through the year, that's all you're going to be doing is talking about the same old shit for the same, for just about every episode. What's
Yeah.
more important to you? Me? Oh, I'll take what I'm doing over, I take what I'm doing here now more than just talking about the same old, 10 movies.
Yeah.
I
agreed.
can't do that. It frustrates me too. It's like, you'll find this out with YouTube. Like they sent me a big old survey. They send people surveys, but sometimes if you answered the one survey, they'll send you not the small one, but they'll send you a really big one. And
Right.
I was just flipping furious. I'm like, I just hate you guys. because it's YouTube has made it really, really hard for people like us to gain traction. Um, I see people run out there with, they get a lot of viewers. And what are they doing? They're putting cop cameras out. Cop stops. It's cop stops, and so a shoplifter got arrested. Watch how she complains.
Oh, yeah.
There's 500,000 people watching that, and you go like, it's like you sit there and you watch that and you go like, what the fuck? It's like, why is this a thing? Why
Right.
is it? And again, it makes you wonder, what am I doing here? Or should I, half you wants to sit there and say, well, what happens if I go interview a tuber that does that?
Yeah.
He's not a creative. All he did was send in Freedom of Information Act. Maybe he had to pay $50 for it, and then run it on his channel.
Yeah.
That's not creative to me. That would be extremely boring to me. I would, even though there's 500,000 people on there and you got 20,000 comments, you don't know if half of them are by bots. You don't know if half of them, it's just, I guess it all depends what, what are your, what's your ultimate goal?
Yeah.
I personally, I'd rather build the house that we're building, brick by brick, rather than inherited 100 foot, 100
Build a
story.
real community.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but there's going to be a lot of fun things for you guys too. Like I thought about this, I want to talk to you about this, like how fun it is to be around Detroit now, knowing full well that the Lions are doing really, really well. Do you get email? Do people send you email? How do you let them? I know you mentioned Instagram, but do you get any email too from your fans who are talking about the?
Yeah. There's one girl that keeps emailing us nonstop, but we give her advice, and she's good for a while.
Candy cane.
Yeah.
Okay.
But generally speaking, there's too much work to do, and we, just like you like your podcast to be organic. We used to be organic, like 100% organic at the beginning, but because we didn't have really any set theme, like we weren't a true crime podcast, we weren't a sports podcast, we didn't fit into any specific mold or theme. It was hard, so we needed to build up a skeleton around which the podcast could exist, and that helped quite a bit. So that the other areas, we know exactly in the show where we can improvise, or we can just free form, and what'll happen will happen, and then it'll naturally come to an end. We'll move on to the next thing, and then we can do it all over again.
Yeah, that's gonna probably be the best part about it. The freestyle. I got that impression from listening to your episodes too. I never really felt like anything was scripted. I felt everything was totally organic. It's like whatever comes up. What's the current event of the weekend?
Yeah.
What's going on that we could talk about. Like let's talk about let's talk about Luigi and his run.
Well, we want the show to be, is built to emulate going to the pub with your buddies, and the kind of conversations that you'd have there with your friends, which would, it's not just about dirty jokes or talking about football. It's a mixture of things that men like to talk about to each other, and it's a lovely part of our lives. And after a while away, we kind of miss it. So, my dad and his brothers grew up in that world where there was no internet, no cell phone, no social media. And the pub was the place where they would go to laugh and cry and learn and take stock of who you were becoming as a young man. They would talk about politics, books, films, family, football, religion, and everything was on the table to talk about and argue about and take the piss out of each other. And that's the thing that united them.
I don't know where that. I don't really understand, even though I don't really do it a lot per se. But I mean, there's times where I feel like, to me, it's like, man, I feel like I feel like when we sit there and we say, well, we're not going to talk about this, we're not going to talk about that, we're not going to talk about that. I feel like when we're saying that, I feel like we're censoring ourselves. Like I'm not going to talk about religion. Not going to. Who cares? What you know what? It's like if you want to sit here and you want to talk religion, let's talk about religion. Who cares? Let's do it. Let's sink our teeth into it. I mean, to me, it's like if you're afraid of if basically anybody that would come and listen to your podcast. Well, I couldn't listen to it, man. I'm sorry. Todd was starting to go off on that religious tangent again. I couldn't handle it. So you know what I sit there and say, you know what? All I would sit there and say, why are you afraid of free speech?
Well, to that I would say,
take a picture of that because it's not going to be here for very much longer the way we're going.
The other way to look at it is, we had feedback this past weekend of someone telling a good friend of ours, someone telling me to stop talking with an Australian accent. It was. She's like, that's enough. Knock it off. It's not funny anymore. You're not doing it well. And I'm like, that's not the point. So if someone's going to have something to say about me trying to do a pretty bad, admittedly, Australian accent, imagine what they're going to pick on in politics, religion, and when you talk about when you talk about having like guardrails or free speech or what are you afraid of, I say we don't need to talk about that. It's not something where we're like, you know what, if we don't talk about it, we can't do a show. There's plenty of other stuff to talk about.
Not necessarily, I'm just saying, like, if it comes up, right? Let's just say we're like tonight. Here we are. We're rounding about. We didn't know this is where this pod was going to go to.
Yeah.
We start talking about Luigi, and also we started talking about the whole, because it would be really interesting to talk to you about that. But it really would. It'd be fascinating to hear other people's opinion about it.
We could do that right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And the beautiful thing about it is that we can do this right now.
Right.
The thing we can do it. We're allowed to do that. Yeah. And if it helps, to me, I find it fascinating. I don't try to go out on the limb for, because you want to try to make this fun. Try to make this fun and everything. But when I hear people say, I don't want to talk politics or religion, or I just feel like, wow, you're scared of free speech. It's okay to sit in there in the trench there for once in a while and talk about things that are different. Maybe things like if I tuned in this Saturday and I'm hearing you talk about something that happened, let's say in your Australian accent, and you're talking about a news something that happened in Newsworthy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be sitting there going like, okay, well, you know what? That's funny as hell, because that after he got told that maybe he shouldn't be doing the accent, he did it again.
Yeah.
and he's talking about a social event or a social issue going on in Australia. I think that would be fucking bloody brilliant myself.
Yeah.
I think your point's well said. I think ultimately, if you like Bob said, I think really and this is why I love the show, is every weekend I am going to the bar with a couple of my buddies, and so while there are some things that I've like kind of written down that I want to make sure that I talk to, it's the thing that, hey, when I get to the bar this week, I'm going to tell them about this thing that I saw or this thing that I read, and while we don't approach necessarily or come at it from a politics or religion thing, depending upon what's going on in the moment. I think if you listen back to some of our old episodes, when there were things going around the George Floyd time frame, it absolutely got broached. I was not afraid, and I don't think anybody on the group. We talk about things that are topical in the moment. We don't try. I think when we say we're not a political or religious, we don't. That's not a lead. We don't have a segment dedicated to religion, right? And ultimately, because and actually, like I said, if you listen to the episodes at times, again, I'm not afraid to say I'm a religious guy, and so when we get close to the edge, I'll speak up, or something that's political or is on the edge of something where I have a strong belief, and everybody, I think, and that's the beauty of it. I think what we're most careful of is we are three friends, and while we do push each other's buttons to some point, I think and I'd say I'd lose track a little bit. I can be known to beat up Corey and Bob, something fierce every now and again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just think that you guys could easily handle something like that. Listening to you guys, I think everybody, I could just hear you guys just laughing about it, and basically taking it and running with it. Something like
I love it. The
yeah.
confirmation hearings. That's going to be that'll be our new segment.
Oh my God, that's gonna be such a clown show. I just, that's gonna be. If anybody can sit there and watch that and can't comment on that, I don't care. I don't care if you're a true crime cast or paranormal or what. If you're avoiding that one, if you're gonna pass on talking about that,
yeah,
you're on the
there's
wrong.
also something. There's something really nice about being a place where you can come in like you did last weekend and drop in the show and kind of get away from the bad feelings from whether it's politics, religion, your job, something else going on in your life where you just need to take a break. It's kind of nice to someone thinks we're a place that they can go and forget about all that other stuff.
Well, we're likely going to make light of it anyway. I think that's the thing. Plus, there's nothing that stops anyone on our podcast from again, you said feedback. We love getting feedback. When people comment, if somebody puts it in the thing, we're going to talk about it. We're not going to, it'll likely get made fun of because again, I think that we're at a bar. We've probably, by that time, we've had a couple of drinks in us. So we're going to be, that truth serums out there. We're going to actually make a comment and try and make it funny and something that people will grab onto because we feed on that. More feedback. We love it.
What do you guys feel about, what do you feel? Do you have any rules as far as when you have guests on the show? Do you have any rules for them? Like, hey, we're going on to the show. These are probably some things like I wouldn't want a neo-Nazi on the show. So I wouldn't let that happen. But I'm just saying though, as far as dialogue or language or topics, do you have any guidelines for guests when they come onto the show, or that's something you cover? Because sometimes people will sit there, they'll give you what you want to hear, but then once the mic goes hot, what happens? Sometimes they'll try to hijack your show and go somewhere where you don't want to go.
The hijacking hasn't happened to us yet, like we talked about earlier. It probably will eventually, but that's why we meet with them first. Just a quick, hey, I'm Bob. This is Todd. This is Cory. And really, we want them to tell us, is there anything you don't want us to cover? And even the last one that we did, the last guest we had, I sent them all the questions ahead of time. I'm like, here's what we're thinking about asking, because they'd never done a podcast before. And so they didn't know what it was going to be like. And I'm like, well, listen, I already know what I'm going to ask you. Would you like to see it beforehand so you maybe feel a little better? And they said, oh, please. So I sent it to them, and it was the Sound Eaters from Paris, and we had a great time. They felt, but that was the trick. We had to make them understand, our job is to make you have make an environment where you can have a good time.
And technically they were from France and not Paris. They actually pointed that out, Bob.
Yeah, I know. But again, the bigger we get, the more I have to remember stuff like that.
Just say that you're, that, but your Australian accent got in the way. So
exactly.
Yep. Exactly, mate.
You and your accent are welcome anytime. That's the thing though. Man, that is the toughest thing though to do with a guest is when you invite them on, and of course, what's really a struggle is when they cancel. Cancellations are a bitch, are they not? I mean, am I the only one that thinks so?
No,
Oh,
you're not the only one.
Cancellations are
because it's hard enough to set up in the first place.
Yes. Now the nature of the guests that I have leave it open a lot for that to happen, because I interview mostly actors, and I know how the business works, and you'll get someone say, I got called in for a shoot, and you gotta let them go. You gotta sit there and say, yep, we'll try to get it back.
Right.
Though I've had some guests. Have you ever had a guest cancel on you or no call no show on you, and then you found them, then you saw them active on social media?
Oh, we've had a no call, no show, but it wasn't for the interview. It was for the planning of it. We picked a date and we're just waiting for final confirmation. Like I'm not gonna say his name.
Oh, that's no fun.
Because you never know, right? I mean,
no, that's what we want to know. I do want to know. So if it comes my way, I know what to do.
Brad Pitt, you asshole.
Yeah, fucking Pitt. So no, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you offline. But this gentleman, like, we picked the date. He was coming into town for another event, and while he was going to be in town, it was in Detroit, and we're like a 10-minute drive. Why don't you stop by? Like, are you going to be staying the night? And he finally told me that he was, and so it was probably like 5 days before the show. I'm like, hey, we still all ready to go? Nothing. Never heard from him. Still to this day, nothing. And of course, that every day since then, I'm, on Instagram, and something from him will blow past me in the feed. I'm like,
Bob, to be fair, Bob, Diddy's got a lot going on these days.
Yeah, this was pre.
I hear the really good thing about Puffy being locked up. I hear the good thing about that is that there's plenty of room for Jay-Z now to go onto the show.
Oh, not necessarily. I'm not sure if you've been following the news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get the Queen Bee now.
Right. Yeah.
If you actually had a chance to sit down and talk to somebody like like Jay-Z or Puffy, like, to me, you mentioned something earlier, and this is my attitude is this: I'm not a shock jock. I can't stand those fuckers. Never see me do that. What I normally do is I'll talk to a guest and I'll sit there and say, hey, is there anything, a special project, passion project, or any new movie you got going on, or any new book you got going on, that you want to talk about? And says, if you do, just let me know, and then we'll work it into our conversation. But I'm not one of those people, and I really hate them too. I really hate them. The ones that will sit there and you go through them, and you do have to send your questions in. Here's your questions, and then they ambush the person. Now, a good podcaster worth his beans is never going to do that. You're never going to. It may sound funny at first, we got them, we jumped them, but it just hurts all of us, like, wow, that my experience with that was so fucking bad. I'm not going to do another podcast, and then we all lose for that.
Right.
My 90 seconds worth of hilarity has cost everybody that's out there trying to get their own show up and running. And then maybe they are doing an interview show like we're doing, and then somebody decides to be a shock jock about it, and it hurts everybody. I can't stand those people.
Agreed.
So how do you deal with your no calls? Do you have like a 2 list? Do you do second chances, or if it's once and they burn
chances.
you, second chances?
We never cut anybody loose. We again, we all know that everybody's grinding, everybody's trying to do it, and to further to touch on your point, I think my favorite thing about having these people on is, we are all human beings. We all have our own insecurities, and so I love to ask them, rather than shock them. Tell me about, what's your process? Bob will tell you. Ultimately, if someone has achieved a level of success or in whatever it is they do, I just want to know what's your, like you asked, what's your process? Tell what do you focus on? What do you do to get your mind right? What do you do when you're feeling down? And it comes through in our interviews. I think ultimately we probe into that, because I think people listen to these podcasts because it's great to go to the bar, to be with your buddies and have a great conversation. But when you leave, you want to leave feeling good that you got something out of it other than a big bar tab. And so with our guests, I think I think we do a great job. And I'd say Bob and Corey really do a great job of that, and helping to probe, what makes them, what drives them, and how do they get to where. I think if you haven't listened to it, our interview at the Year of October was really, really cool, talking about with a band about how they make music, how they go in, how a 3-piece band sounds like a 5-piece band, and how what inspires them. That stuff is awesome to me, because these podcasts are an opportunity to uplift other people and to help people achieve whatever their goals and dreams are.
It was really funny, and it's really funny to say that too, Todd, because that's what kills me too. So it really kills me. And I talked to there's 3 or 4 other podcasters I talked to. We're interview channels, and what really kills me is now I've commented on this a couple of times, but it's absolutely true. So what really kills me is the fact that you go ahead and this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to do a podcast where you're talking to the people in the business. On one hand, you got a lot of people going aside on different channels or whatnot here, and you'll see this as you get on with the tube. You'll see these people talk about, let's just say, the Lions. Okay, so it could be me and 40 other fuckers inside a little group there. We're all talking about the Lions, Lions this, Lions that. You, on the other hand, could be sitting over there and bringing on Jared Goff onto the show. Okay, you can have Jared Goff. You can sit there and say, Jared Goff's going to stop by and watch the show.
Yeah,
you'll have 5 people in there watching you interview Jared, and those people that come in there, they get a chance to talk to Jared Goff. Get to talk to him. Which if you go to a convention now, think about this. Think about what we get to do for free. We get to invite our guest on. We get to sit there and ask questions. It literally costs now, if you're a fan of a movie, you have to pay parking, you have to pay entry, you have to stand in line, and you have to pay to sit there and talk to the person you want to talk to. Not only sign picture and a DVD, but let's just say you want to talk to somebody on camera. A lot of times you have to pay for that. And here we are over here. We get to talk among each other with other guests. We get to do it for free. And to me, I'm one of those guys that I like you, Todd, that you mentioned, like, I want to know. I want to know what's going on behind the door. I want to see the wizard. I'm not, just because it looks like magic. I want to see the magic. So you got 5 people sitting over there. There's Jared Goff sitting over there, Schnozzcast. And you got 40 people over there talking about how Jared Goff is their favorite quarterback. And you sit there and say, well, Jared Goff, you do know he's live down the way there, right? A couple of channels down. You do know he's live, right? And it's like they sit there and they talk about how, I'm this, I'm that. You bring them something cool, and all of a sudden it's like they can't be bothered. And then you hear them talk afterwards, like, I'm a Lions fan, and you just sit there and you just look at them and go like, I don't get you. I don't understand that at all. If I got a chance to talk to why I just couldn't understand why anybody would miss up a chance to sit there and talk to the person you're talking about. Jared Goff's my favorite quarterback. We'll go down and say hi.
Right.
But I sometimes about the second chances, sometimes yes, there's sometimes no. Like I have had somebody who was well known, he burned my ass, but I did see him move around. I did see him move around on social media. I saw him moving around. He was supposed to be in bed. I was in bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of my bed. Really? That's why you're on Instagram here and Facebook here and Instagram here. I'm following you. I'm watching you. I'm watching you, and you're telling me that, I was so sick last night. I couldn't move. And that's why you're on. Okay. And then because though, it's all about respect too, right? I mean,
100%.
It's all about respect. It's like, I appreciate and respect the time that you're given to come over here and talk to us.
Yeah.
And that's all we want back. We just want that returned. What has been your singularly best moment on the pod, and what's one moment that you wish you could take back? besides the Australian accent.
Wow.
Which you can't take back because we just
That's the thing.
We just gifted that to you for life.
I got one, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the one that I wish I could take back first. There was an episode maybe a couple months ago, or maybe 2-3 months ago.
Oh,
because for people who don't know, Cory and I are essentially the same height, but we do this back and forth about how I do the back and forth. I do the back and forth about how I'm taller than Cory, even though, again, for the record, we're essentially the same height. But one episode, like every other comment, there was an in for me to comment on how much shorter Cory was than me. And for 2 straight hours, I just ripped on Cory's height. And it was like a horrible episode because I thought I had all these great one-liners about, Cory was shorter than this. And I kept hitting the same bell in the same spot for 2 hours. And it was horrible. And I wish I could take that back because it was like going to the bar with your buddy and then finding the thread and then just pulling it until you had no coat.
It's hard to do that though, but it's hard to do that when you get a laugh out of it. Yeah. It's not like you hit that one thing and then you get a laugh out of it, and then you do go to the well because every time you mention it, people crack up.
Well, it was more me cracking up.
Yeah, he was the only one. He was the only one.
An audience of one. Oh,
exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I'll be honest with you, Todd. That's not the one I thought you were going to say. The one I would probably take back is the gentleman that I started the show with. Just him and I did that one episode that sat there for a year. We brought him. He's been a great friend of the show, and he's been on the show a few times as a guest. And one time I can name him, Dr. Phil Anton. Phil came on the show, and he gave us a gift, which he'd actually mailed to me. It was a framed picture of like an angel, but it was like a warrior angel thing, and he had autographed it. And when he got on the show, like I hadn't told Todd or Cory. I just told him he was coming. I didn't tell him what we're going to talk about. I didn't tell him what we're going to cover. And Phil just launched into it, went in that religion category very quickly. And it stayed there for probably 20 minutes until he had to go. And within the first 3, I think he lost everybody else on the show. Like everybody else just kind of checked out. They're like, oh no. And I had to bring it all back. And so lesson learned after that, I'm like, I never plan anything new or different that's going to be a radical change without telling them first.
Right. I get that.
Yeah, it was pretty horrible.
And your favorite moment on the pod? What's the one moment you're most proud of?
The one, if on our show after 300 episodes, if you made somebody laugh so hard that it was like hundreds of episodes ago and they still bring it up later in just casual conversation, not even on the show, that's a really good feeling. That's better than being recognized on the street, in my opinion. And I have at least one of those moments. Maybe I've got more, but that moment where I'm like, oh, that was funny enough to last. It has a half-life that's going to last for a while.
I would say for me, it's the episode Cory ate a cake in the shower, because the moment I realized so much of the stuff that Cory does is not funny to me, and I'm hard on him about it. But he does some shit that is just so funny. It's just undeniable.
That was a great moment.
It was an incredible moment when Cory ate that cake in the shower. I lost my mind.
It was it was a moment that I think we all realized, like, oh, we can do anything we want. We can do anything.
Did you guys have a bet?
No. It was he just decided to do it, filmed himself in the shower, and then presented to us like, here you go. And we all watch it. We're like, what? What did you do? Why did you do this? He's like, I know, right? They're like, no, we don't know. We don't know why you did this, but it was that was the moment where I'm like, oh, there's no restrictions. We could do if anything we want to do can be done.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have restrictions? Do you have restrictions? I noticed you guys are. I heard earlier you mentioned that you guys used to. Do you guys still drink on the pod, or do you still, or is that all just props?
No, this is actual booze. I didn't get a shot. Maybe I should, but
I was excited we weren't doing shots. I brought my
Yeah.
beer and my cooler, so I'm good.
Yeah, we got a podcast on Sunday during the game, and that's 3 hours of drinks and shots. So I'm taking it easy, I think, until then.
Oh yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
you know what though, you can also tell the bartender too, like after the second one, just make it water. Make it water. That way you're coherent at the end of the show.
I'll be honest with you, that's never occurred to me to do that. That's
Yeah.
probably it's a smart idea.
It's only happened to me in Singapore.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I've had singers that wanted to, hey, let's have a shot, let's have a drink. I don't drink, so let's go have a shot, let's go have a drink, and then I'll sit there and the bartender, I said, just you know what to do, and then the first one I went over the shoulder, like, and then after that, then it was like. And then after that, it was straight from the nozzle. Like, all right, hey, what are you drinking there? Schnapps.
Yeah.
That way you don't get goofy.
300 episodes. It never occurred to me to do that.
Helpful tips. So what's next? I'll let this be our last question to you.
Sure.
But what's next for the pod going in the new year, 2025? Do you have any goals, any plans? Where else are you going to take the pod on the road? I mean, sounds to me you've already got done it successfully twice. Anywhere else you want to go to and do a live show from?
There's a couple things that we were talking about. It doesn't always have to be during a sporting event. I would like to do a live podcast from a bar without an event going on, just with us as I was a big fan of Kevin Smith used to do a traveling show with Jason Mewes, and they would just get up on stage and they would do basically what we're doing right now for an hour and a half. And that's what I would like to do, but I don't know if we're there yet. That'd be a great goal, I think, to get there. How about you, Todd?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I've actually come to the point where I like Kevin Smith more as a spoken word, more as a movie director.
Yeah, 100%. Me too.
And I think he's more interesting as a spoken word artist than his movies have been.
He's if you've never heard him tell on stage the story about him working with Bruce Willis on that movie, I think it's called Cop Out.
16 Blocks. Was it 16 Blocks?
It's Cop Out. Initially they were going to call it A Couple of Dicks, but the studio for some reason said no, so they call it Cop Out. It's Bruce and Tracy Morgan.
Okay.
Yeah, Bruce Willis, Kevin Smith was a humongous fan growing up, moonlighting and all that stuff, and he was so excited to direct this guy in his own movie. And apparently it was the worst nightmare he's ever had. And the story's like 20, 25 minutes, and it is from start to finish just so well done.
I love the one where they asked him to make a Spider-Man, Superman movie.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's the one that gets me. And then says, "Yeah, we gotta get a spider in the last
big spider."
Yeah, we're gonna get a big spider. We're gonna have Superman fight a spider." And he's like, "Oh yeah, all right." And then, next thing you know, here goes the Wild Wild West, and what do they fight? Giant spider.
Giant spider. Yeah.
John Peters. I remember John Peters. I'm old enough for this shit. But I remember when John Peters, before he was anything, the reason why he got to where he got, he really did, because he shacked up with Barbara Streisand. He was literally a hairdresser.
Yep, hairdresser to the stars.
Yeah, and he turned out to be I wouldn't say a good producer, but he got to work. So
Let's all say that he was great, so that we all eventually have an opportunity to interview him.
There you go.
is there anybody you would not interview?
I think Todd said neo-Nazis, or maybe you said neo-Nazis, Patrick. I think that's a good line.
I would interview a neo-Nazi.
You would?
Oh, sure.
Okay. All right. So is there anyone then, Todd, that I'll let you answer for the show, just in general. Anyone we wouldn't interview?
I would interview anybody.
Okay.
I mean, we have the mute button ultimately, and I feel like we could make anybody laugh, even a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I don't know about that. I know they make me. I know they would make me laugh. It's just one of those streams where you open up a can of whoop ass.
Exactly.
Which is why I couldn't do it, because I would enjoy that way too much.
Todd, what about you? What's your dream list for 2025?
My dream list for 2025 is I want to go bigger on the social media and actually do as Bob said, and as you've been touching on, Pat, definitely more stuff here while I'm in Washington. I do plan to visit Michigan a couple more times in 2025, but definitely getting out and about here in Washington State. I do have a couple of people here who do recognize my voice and who do follow me and us on the Schnozzcast here locally. So I have gotten people go, "Hey, I've heard your voice before," and I'm like, "I know you have. Why wouldn't you?" But anyway, no, I think
there is one thing I should tell you guys. There's one thing you guys probably should. I don't know if you've done this or not, but because you have over 300 episodes and underneath your belt, is I would actually maybe starting next year or even now. I'm sure you probably get it now, but I would, for you guys, I would try, like if you want to go see a baseball game or cover a baseball game or cover a hoops game, you should contact the front offices of the respective franchises. Tell them who you are in your podcast. I'm sure that you would. I'm sure you could find some guests that way.
That's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea at all. Agreed.
Yep. You guys already been on the road to the Tavern and the other place, so that you got that 300 episodes plus plus your fans. You can also do the Comic Cons and get a press pass.
Maybe we could go to Chapeau Vert.
That's true. It's really dark though and loud. The jiggly room, Pat.
The jiggly room.
Yeah.
A different kind of athlete.
I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, there are people in that industry that do pods,
and we should interview them.
Yeah, we should.
If
their place of business,
if they're on Threads, you have a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
If they're on Instagram, you have maybe 1% if they answer you.
Yeah.
That's one thing that Instagram took away. Before you could go and you could write anybody on Instagram like, "Hey, we'd like to go and do a show," but now Instagram decided that the celebrities needed help with their social media. So now what they do is you're allowed to say hi to somebody one time until they write you back.
Yeah.
Threads, you don't have to worry about that. But Instagram is it's like, okay, because what I do is I go ahead and whatever I get contact from, either Threads or Facebook or what have you, I try to bring them back to Instagram because that's the easiest platform for me to talk on. But now after they did that, as far as finding guests goes, would like to come onto the show, then you have to sit there and wait, and hopefully they see your note. Otherwise, you have to start another account or delete the one that you did, and then see if you can come back and re-ask. It's a pain in the ass, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
and it makes the job a lot harder. That's for sure. All right, we have kept these gentlemen way too long. Sorry about that, but I had a great time talking to you guys. And Bob and Todd, I do hope and when Corey gets back, we'll get him on the show. And Todd, yeah, hey man, you got to come back, man. You know what? When they bother you about the sports, Just talk Tiger baseball. That's not a sport. That's not a sport at all.
Wow.
Exactly. Or actually,
Yeah.
Pistons basketball. That'll.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh! Hell
yeah.
yeah, you cannot call the Pistons basketball. Don't you can't call that sports. Or better yet, I personally, what I would do if I was Todd is, since I just walk in there wearing Ohio State gear myself.
Oh,
Oh.
it would burn his skin. He'd get
Oh,
all sorts of rashes and creams and
Oh
lotions.
no! I know my stomach hurts now.
Yeah.
Oh, see. But no, I understand that. But you guys have run a great show. I want you guys all to
So do
come
you.
back and
Thank you
visit
so
us.
much.
And I had a great time. And yeah, I will send Chadwick your information, and I'll tell him to send you a ping. And then yeah, if there's anything I can do on my end to help you guys out, just let me know, and I'll see
Join
what
our
I can do.
show. Join
Yeah.
our show soon.
Yeah.
We got to have you on ours.
Let's do something in maybe mid-late January.
Yeah, we can do that. We definitely could do that. I
Okay.
will be here for that. And and especially since you guys do it on Saturday, which I don't do on Saturday, so I'll be perfect.
Great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody who could have watched the replay. I appreciate this so much. We'll be back next week. Next week we have It's All About Music. It's all about music. First of all, we have the band Carry the Nine will be with us on Tuesday. Singer-songwriter Jenna Clark will be with us on Wednesday. And then on next Thursday, we will be talking with actually social. I'm going to call them social mental health advocates. B and Beth, also known as Social Leopard. They will be here on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
I will be joined by special co-host Snow Leopard. She'll be here hanging out with us as we talk about mental health in this world. And believe me, that's something we're gonna have to talk about. Anybody has a podcast, we'll be talking about that sooner than later, as we head into a very uncertain time here in our country. You won't be able to avoid it, so might as well hit it head on. And that will be next week here on 8 Questions With. Thank you guys so much for coming out and supporting the show. Without you, I wouldn't be here, and we will see you next time through. If you two guys stay right where you're at just for a minute, I'm going to say good night to everybody else, and then we'll talk real quick. I know I have to take my charger off in order to turn off the. You know,